Yeah, so I went through my first cold turkey experience. First of probably 20 or 25.
Uh-huh, okay. And that was when you realized that you were in pretty deep.
Yeah, it's hard to remember what the thinking was, but look, I don't want to paint this as it was all glorious. I mean, I just had a lot of death around me. I think that around that time, my friend Tom Bunderson had been murdered. I was involved in selling drugs as well. So yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
And
I'm not really sure why.
My other question was about these older guys who'd been beatniks, these guys in their 70s that kind of took you under their wing. What were they giving you? Like, what were they teaching you that was attractive? Well,
I've heard Hunky described, and if for those who don't know Herbert Hunky, they should go and find his writings and as the American Genet, and I think that's accurate. I think he's actually a better writer, but probably not a better philosopher than Genet. But to become friends, first of all, I think that I was able to see sort of the last gasp of this sort of intersection of intelligentsia, art, and criminality, that you don't really get in America anymore. Maybe in some ways with hip-hop, but it seems to be more of a sort of a professional wrestling, look at that, play on that. But, these were guys who had, self-educated, well-read. Hunky did 15 years in prison, lifelong. Corso was a scholar, self-taught scholar. Both of them did a lot of prison time. And if you looked at Hunky's life, his life was really about living in the moment. I remember there's another great poet, Janine Papi Vega, who just passed away. And Janine had been with Hunky in the early days, in her early days, but by the late 50s, as a sort of a young person experimenting with bohemia. And she had gone through her drug phase, and she had passed through that, and had gotten really into the spiritual side. And I remember we went up to Woodstock, where she was working with her guru at the time, and we had spent a weekend with her. By we, it was a film crew from Sweden, and Hunky, my late wife Barbara, and Louis, his partner, son, lover, whatever, and a few others who were really strung out. And we had a couple of butted heads a couple of times with Janine, but at the end, what she said to me was like, it's actually the same thing. It's the same thing that we were seeking. So Herbert could live in the moment. Herbert could be concerned with nothing but what's right in front of him. A way of living outside of the box. These were the first, before the hippies. They rejected the society. They rejected the sort of consumer capitalism, suit and tie, button-down world. They were the ones that experimented with free verse poetry, free love, and bebop, and this is in the 30s and the 40s. And what I got from them was just that first of all, that I wasn't alone, that I wasn't just hatched, that there was a tradition of people like me that had gone back for years and years, and really the struggle to love oneself. And I watched it with Hunky, he was an amazing character. Look, he was a thief. And you can read all kinds of terrible accounts about him, but his generosity to me was unbelievable. His generosity of spirit and even material, even though he didn't have much. So for me to be validated by somebody, he's the type of dude I used to see in documentaries. Go, I want to meet that motherfucker, that motherfucker. And then we met and we were friends, really close friends.
Okay. Yeah, that would be a lot, particularly at that age. That would be really
it was a mind blow. I mean, to just be walking through the streets of New York with him, and or with Corso, and they start telling stories about, breaking into cars with Dexter Gordon, the great saxophone player, or being at being lovers with Genet, or a story about hanging out with Lady Day. I mean, that's pretty heady shit, man, especially for a young musician.
Right. Okay. All right. So, before we went off on this tangent, I guess you're at your kind of early 30s.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess things were starting to get really heavy in your own life and also in your community.